Yeah, is this it?
Yeah, they all look the same, man.
Well,
The I cannot tell, but you can just lift the thing, it's 5/8.
Yeah, that's the bidding.
What item are you here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, wait.
I just wanted to move things up.
Let's wait for my turn.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. No, I'm here for light of speed. So wondering what's going on, so.
And you're copied on the communication regarding the flag policy too, so. I don't know if you know that, but
Yeah,
we provided hard copy with your name on it.
okay.
Whoever dropped it off asked to be put in the packet, so. It showed all the blind copy names.
Ah, no problem. I didn't see any. Other than it came.
This is Chair Bowman. So he's not, definitely not for each other.
Okay.
Please. Yes.
All right, it is 1:30. I've started recording. You're good to go, Chair.
Thank you, Michael. I'm gonna call this special meeting of November the 14th to order. It is the City Council Subcommittee of Public Works. At this point in time, I'm gonna turn the agenda over to my fellow council member, Brian Wheeler, and he'll walk us through the agenda items.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and let's start with item A, call to order and roll call, and I see all listed members are here. And you gentlemen, can you please state your name?
Richard St. Angelo.
Okay,
I'm David Holt, resident of Cloverdale.
thank you. All right, and let's move into B, public comments. Are there any public comments? Online, no, and you
Question,
gentlemen.
comments on the Soda Springs Park in
Oh,
community.
one moment. This public comment period is for items not listed on the agenda.
Okay,
Once we get to that item, we'll be able to comment on it.
yeah, no problem.
Okay, and then communications, I see we do have one communications. Does somebody want to go over that? David, have you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you, Vice Chair Wheeler. There's a communication in the packet from Miss Rose Opatz. She has forwarded two communications that were previously sent, I think, to Chair, Councilmember or Vice Mayor Gus Walter, expressing her thoughts and perspective on the Springs Ranch property, and in particular traffic and parking issues. I think she was unaware that her original communication dated August 4th was included in the previous subcommittee agenda packet, at which time the subcommittee did note her communication and staff provided a response. I think what she is sharing is that she's concerned about the parking demand that would be generated by the new open space that the city acquired, and certainly don't disagree with her that it's something that needs to be evaluated, and it's within our plans to do some community outreach. We just recently closed, and we just haven't initiated that engagement process yet. Once we do, we will most certainly conduct outreach with the community, with the entire community, particularly the neighborhood most closely situated to what we think will largely be the park, will probably be the park entrance, the main park entrance. So we fully plan to engage with Ms. Opatz. I think she is providing some valuable feedback in terms of just in general parking conditions around City Park. And I think it's concurrent to what we're seeing is there's an increased use of the park. And, you know, in a way, parking is, having a parking issue is reflective of the increased use and increased activity at the park. But it'll be definitely something we'll have to work on as part of the plan, you know, in developing a trailhead and developing a plan for use of White Ranch.
Is there when it comes to like the Soda Springs before it really kicks off at the end of secondary, you know, how you go through the gate and then you're up in is there any restrictions on? We took that over. Are we constrained, or do we have any restrictions when it comes to possibly going through a gate and making a parking lot there? Or
You know, as part of the transaction for the property, you know, the property was acquired with funds by the open space district, and what the district does as part of that process is develop the conservation easement that permanently restricts the property for open space, and in that they set out the allowable or permitted uses, and included in the allowable uses is a parking area of so many square feet. I don't remember off the top of my head what the exact.
I think it was 6 to 8 parking spots.
Yeah, right. So, and so,
that's not a lot.
it kind of is reflective of the amount of area that is there.
Yeah.
And so, just by the very nature of the easement, we're restricted on how much parking we can put in there, and it will be part of the planning process to determine, you know, do we go with what's the maximum allowed, or do we reduce that by some number? Or is it reduced because of design constraints or issues? We know, or we believe that it would be really important to provide accessible or ADA parking, and we'll have to look at, you know, whether that's there's way I kind of view ADA parking. There's kind of two types: traditional ADA, and then there's van parking, where you have a very large kind of open space between two parking spaces, or if you just have two side spaces. But that's kind of getting in the weeds a little bit, but the easement does provide for some limited parking. So I know, as an aside, our park superintendent's working on getting the striping done
Yes,
in front of City Park, because they're really worn.
Yeah.
And, you know, just to really know where the parking spaces are, that it's not going to create more parking opportunities, but at least it will hopefully guide folks that park there to park.
Find them a little bit.
And maybe in that sense allow for more parking, but you know, I think, just to kind of share preliminary thoughts of staff, is we'll be looking at kind of concurrently developing at least some kind of pedestrian access, bicycle access on Foothill Drive, near Vintage Meadows Park. You know, obviously we need to engage with those neighbors too, but that could alleviate, you know, some of the impact of the trailhead use, the trail access all coming from city, you know, adjacent to Second Street, City Park. And then also build that connection between those two neighborhoods, where right now, you know, you have to ride around or drive around, and you know, it would be a very short walk or short bike ride for, you know, once we formalize that connection.
One of the things that on the striping of the city park, that where we're finding out is that folks right now, instead of taking one spot, they take two or sometimes three. They park this way, so that makes it for the next car to go to the next, and then so instead of allowing 52 parking spots, you know, that's, you know, sometimes you get just about half of that.
Yeah.
So hopefully with the striping, the contract is already pretty much executed with, so we're hoping to get it done here in the next probably week or so, depending on weather. And then so that's one of the solutions. That's one of the things that we did since last time we met. And then David touched on it a little bit. The south entrance off Foothill Boulevard, according to his measurements, it looks like we can put anywhere from 20 to 22 full-size parking spots, which will alleviate some of the traffic. Yeah,
Are
alleviate
those
some.
gonna go in diagonal, like coming down to the dead end? Are they gonna go diagonal, or are we just gonna curb parallel to the curb.
I think his analysis was just to look at just parallel parking now, but
Yeah.
we can come up with a design and see, you know, what are some different
Cause
opportunities.
that'll probably be the spot where most people go to. Everybody I've been talking to is like, this foothill, you know, that's what they're keyed in on right now. It's foothill's gonna be the parking.
Not from my neighborhood,
Not from your neighborhood?
downtown.
Yeah, they're all headed up Second Street,
Well, nobody is yet, but
but
If we do that,
that's their thought process though.
if we do like some parallel parking here,
Yeah,
then there's room for the cars to turn around at the end
yeah,
and drive out.
let me just say, if I could, there's plenty more parking here than there is at Porterfield.
Yeah.
Plenty more parking opportunity
yeah.
on Foothill right there, and if people park at the park during the daytime when they go, and there's no other use there.
Well, just a real quick, Dave, while we're on the subject of Foothill, you talked about the south Foothill. How about the other end of Foothill? Down by Second Street? I mean, could we move the dirt or for whatever you want to call it, but just grade that area and put in a couple more spots exactly on Foothill Boulevard?
So there's
In connection with where the open space district says we can do it, we can actually bring it more west and put in a couple more if we went on Foothill Boulevard and did that, I think.
Yeah, I think there would be parallel parking opportunities on Foothill Boulevard. We anticipate that the three homes, the 3 or 4 homes on the east side of Foothill Boulevard, located north of the entrance, you know, may have expressed some concerns about, you know, adding parking there, but if the right of way is available and we've got the space, you know, that's something we'll,
Right of ways available.
well, maybe, right, portions of it maybe, Vice Mayor Walter said behind the gate, so we have to look at where.
No, what I meant is as you come up to the gate,
Oh, gotcha.
if you look to the left.
To the left,
That's
okay.
Foothill Boulevard, it's all woods and it goes over to.
It's only one lane, that's why.
Right, well, to the left, again, we'll have to,
To the
the
right.
easy answer is I don't know fully without having doing some survey work, because we'll have to determine where the bounds of the Zanzi property
Gotcha,
ends.
okay.
That's his
And-
property.
And we obviously are entitled to use our public right of way.
Right.
And then we would be negotiating with Mr. Zanzi or the Zanzi Family Trust on use of their property if that makes sense or, you know, offers a potential solution. But, you know, again, that's where, once we get into doing the planning, we'll have better survey data to help inform us, you know, where exactly the right of way is out there. We're still kind of, we're doing some preliminary planning and looking at what are some of the issues, but we haven't done the design, you know, any design work yet.
And my apologies, we're getting too far down into the weeds and we haven't even thought about it yet, so we'll talk about that later.
Good stuff.
Any other comments on that item?
I'll circle back to it when we get to it later in the agenda,
Okay,
just in the time of an effort of your time.
okay. All right, item D, approval of minutes. So everybody good on approving minutes from the last meeting?
I'll move for approval.
Second. Oh, I can second.
I'll second,
Okay,
Vice Chair.
all right, let's move forward and approve minutes. Item D. Move into item E, new business. Start the discussion of Ferber Park survey results to date.
All right, well, I'll start on this item. And let the team kind of take over here. Included in your packet is a copy of the survey results. And we'll kind of walk through those in a moment, but just as kind of background, the subcommittee has reviewed a couple of requests from the community to add some additional amenities or improvements at Ferber Park. Likewise, staff was looking at and evaluating opportunities for the playground area. Of course, we know most recently we added the pickleball courts, and they have been well received and are very popular. I think we received a communication fairly recently from one of our local pickleball ambassadors indicating how thankful they are to have these new courts. But the direction from the subcommittee was to conduct a survey of the community to determine and get feedback on proposed improvements in the park. Staff, and I want to give much thanks to the team of Kevin, Hector, and Mike, our city clerk, on developing a survey. We've been broadcasting the survey out on our weekly newsletter, as well as, you know, other avenues to get as many survey results as possible. I think most recently we added some documents at the park with the QR code to kind of get folks who are actually in the park to respond to the survey. And I think so far we've got approximately 441 survey responses. So we've done pretty good in comparison to some of the past survey work we've done in terms of survey numbers. Maybe we can, Mike, are you able to share screen with the survey?
Yeah, let me do that right now. So as David mentioned, when you first go to our website, for example, like our Parks and Recreation page, I created a pop-up that shows up so that anybody goes to the page and hopefully take the survey, as well as on our homepage. You can all see my screen too. On our homepage, we have it down here in the find out what's happening section. So it does, like David said, we have about 440 folks as of when this agenda is published. I haven't checked recently if we have more. Our goal is to kind of get to at least 500, but for now, we're going to do a little preliminary dive into the results. Did you want me to walk through it, David, or would you like to?
Oh, love it, Mike.
Okay. So question one was the age. You can just kind of see out of the 441 folks. Each question, by the way, will have the question up here and the amount of people that answered it, because you can also skip questions if they maybe don't apply to you. So you can kind of see the spread here, being that the majority of folks that took it so far between 35 and 44 and 65 and up. One section of the market that we haven't been able to hit as much on this particular survey was our under 18. I know we're gonna have a future survey, just as for your notification, that when we have a recreation citywide survey that's gonna go out, we're gonna definitely direct more to the schools, because we are very interested in what the different, you know, generations in the community are interested in recreation wise. But as far as Ferber Park goes, these are our various ages, frequency of Ferber Park usage. So you can see the amount of daily, weekly, monthly, rarely, and never. It's nice to see that the majority of folks that are taking this survey frequent the park quite often. So that's nice. Just from a survey point of view, we only have 1.36% said they never apply, which is 60. Hopefully we can get them into our parks. Typical time of usage seems to be the morning, afternoon, and surprisingly evening. I thought that would be a little bit later, but for now, based on the survey results, morning tends to be the most popular time period that folks are going. As far as their favorite activities in the park, walking and jogging is by far the highest. Using the use of the playground, and then it seems the rest is typical to a park where the league facilities, you know, the soccer, little league, are being utilized when there's actual groups in there, different leagues and whatnot.
And Mike, real quickly, if you can go back to that one, I just, you know, one of the things I thought was interesting about this particular slide is, you know, we've heard a lot about pickleball. I know based on feedback from our park superintendent, you know, he receives a lot of feedback from parents about the playground, and it kind of I was noting that there was a significant number of survey responses for the playground. It was second compared to walking and jogging. I just kind of wanted to point that out. In terms of total number, pickleball got 101 votes. Whereas playground got 205, so kind of double the number. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. So the next was, how would you rate the accessibility of Ferber Park for visitors with disabilities or mobility challenges? This is more of an ADA question. Looks like good and fair were the primary responses in this. which we'll get more to that in one of the next slides as far as some of the options we have to hopefully get more of the excellent responses. Well, obviously always our goal, but definitely in the green and blue is what we're looking for, like, especially when it comes to ADA.
This was a good, no, I was actually surprised to see that. Almost 200 of the responses rated the accessibility for disability either poor or fair. So this is kind of a surprising statistic, but good information, good feedback, and I think it's something that in terms of improvements, we should be cognizant of one, good legal requirements, but also just to ensure that the park is accessible to our community.
Well, and I'm wondering on that too, like we've spoken about before, is down Great Gable, is that Great Gables that goes right there?
Yes.
From that hillside right there,
Right.
when you watch for soccer or anything, a lot of folks park up there and unload kids, and they've got dogs and everything else, and then they shoot down that hill.
Yeah.
I'll bet you that number would change dramatically if you had stairs right there.
Right.
I mean.
Exactly. That's one of the survey results we'll see in a little bit is when people get to kind of provide feedback about what they'd like to see in the park, and that had a high response rate, was getting some kind of accessibility from Great Gables.
We did those kind of.
Moving on, how would you rate the current park facilities, which is fields, courts, landscaping, etc.? And as you can see, there's a majority in good and fair, being about almost half, 200, well, not quite half, but 45.41% think it's good, 38.53% think it's fair, and a pretty low number thinks it's poor, which is, and that's what that question brings us into question number 7, which is the most desired amenity improvements. So in this question, we set it up so they could rank them so that, you didn't have to choose, like, for example, I like going to the park for fitness and pickleball and a walk. I didn't want to have to pick one of those. So we let people rank them. So you can see that they basically had a 0 to a 10 out of these options. Or sorry, that's not accurate. They had 7 options here, and they were ranked. So based on desired amenities, it looked like quite up, because you kind of look at a score here out of 10. Our highest scores were the improved sports field. So that's Little League soccer. I don't know if Hector, you wanted to mention anything about the current state of those fields.
Well, the field itself it's in good condition. What I've been hearing from some of the things that I've been hearing from the local leagues is that we currently don't have a scoreboard. And that's what they meant as far as field maintenance. So that's one thing we can talk about to maybe hopefully put one up there. We have the infrastructure for it. They actually did put the 6-inch pipes, and we have power to it. We just currently don't have a scoreboard, and that's what a lot of these local leagues, they wanted us to create that field more of a baseball field, I guess. So that's the feedback that I got from the local leagues and around town.
And as we saw, the local leagues are definitely the ones who frequent the playground the most. New playground play accessories was the play structure, was close to 5 as well. So those were our 2 highest ranked, as well as additional pickleball courts. As you know, they're also in high demand. More walking, jogging trails were also above 4. Outdoor fitness equipment was between a 3 and a 4. Permanent bag toss, similar to what we were putting at City Park, where people are interested in that, as well as some disc golf baskets, which is something that we, Hector and Kevin, David, and I have been exploring the options to have at least maybe one on each side of the field. So when there isn't a league going on, you can throw some disc golf. And that'd be a pretty inexpensive amenity that we can add, but just for you can see where they all rank, and they're all at least between about 2.5 and 5. Next on the survey, we have most desired infrastructure improvements. So the difference between, like I said, these were amenities more for recreation. Infrastructure is definitely speaking more to the the additional picnic tables, barbecue pits, creek access, parking improvements, and you can see that the highest is the functioning baseball field scoreboard, as Hector just said. It got over a 5. Parking improvement, striping, got a 4.07 staircase ramp from Big Gables was the next highest. As we saw from the ADA access, that is definitely an interest of the community. Creek interpretive informational signage, 3.2. I just spoke about picnic tables, barbecue pits, and improved creek access. Question 9, please provide any additional suggestions and comments. These aren't on here because each person was able to, saw 243 people responded. And that means there's 243 individual responses with an array of different information. So that's not in here because it's just a preliminary report, but it's something that Park Superintendent Kevin and I and David will all definitely dive into once we close the survey, so that we can further gather those results and give you a more realistic interpretation of them. And that's kind of the same as what type of events or programs, children, adults, senior, would you like to see organized by the Parks and Recreation Department at Purple Park in the future? That was an open-ended question, so those results aren't present at this time. And the last was, how would you like to receive information about future park events and upcoming recreation programs? It's help myself kind of gauge how we want to market and give outreach to the community. And you can see that the majority, or at least 59.26, want Cloverdale Facebook to be utilized a little bit more for this, as well as the Cloverdale newsletter, which we currently use, which you can subscribe to. Next was the Recreation Parks Department website, which is operational, still under construction, but as you can see, this is a website for now, since once we clicked it, you can look at it. Scroll back down to our responses here. And otherwise, typical things that we would do: bulletin boards, flyers, an online recreation guide is something that we have created. It's we purchased as you're aware, I've already purchased that software. We're just populating it now, so it's not live quite yet, but it will be. As well as a physical mailing was pretty high percentage. And then some folks gave us some specific options that I don't have captured here, but I'll be able to share them in the future once we close the survey. So that's the survey results in a nutshell. I'll go ahead and give it back to you, David.
Thanks, Mike. Well, I was particularly delighted to see the survey results. I thought they were really fantastic and informative, and could help guide us in terms of future improvements, and kind of see where the community sits, I think, in terms of their sentiment for improvements. Our plan, I think, was to just keep it open until the end of December, and then start a new year, bring it back kind of with the final compilation with all the detailed survey results, and see what the takeaways the subcommittee is, and then if support, bring it forward to council with some recommendations.
Did we, just a quick question, Hector, I know we striped the parking lot on the low end of Purple Park. Did we ever do the top side?
No, we didn't, but that's one area that we can do.
Yeah,
Because I have it on my notes, look at my budget, so how we're looking in there.
yeah, because I know we're doing the one over on Second Street.
Yeah.
It might be,
Yeah.
just combine it both. Because we did repave it or sleeve coated or whatever you call
Yes.
that, and no doubt we striped, so.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely be looking at the budget.
And as far as the steps go, not to get into a deep conversation, but we did look at that. I'm going back maybe 4 or 5 years ago. David, I think you might have been here. And we just felt that it was too expensive because we were sidelined, or we needed to do handicap serpentine walkway, and it was astronomical to put that in. If we could just do the steps, it wouldn't be too much of a problem, but so I think Paul Kaler was the city manager at that point in time, so I don't know if that's changed.
Well, I think with the increased usage of the park, the addition of the pickleball courts, and the activity that we're seeing, I think there's a real need for stairs. Addressing the accessibility component will be something that would be required to do. There is accessible entrances on Great Gables.
Yeah.
But what's lacking is signage and or a stripe, a parallel stripe space, and maybe curb cut. So those are things we could look at, and we could, so that if you're to develop an accessible ramp, we know that those tend to drive up the costs. And because you have to do those in addition to if you do stay or get food. Maybe we could look at just doing a path, an accessible path without stairs is one option, or again, adding a parking space, curb cut, and with appropriate signage showing the accessible path.
Down towards the playground a little more where it levels
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Right.
It's about 30 yards from there,
Yeah.
from the playground. But like David mentioned, I think it's good idea for now, maybe just get some signage, pointing 88 in that direction. That way they can get out and the wheelchair can come around. There's an ADA path all the way out to the playground and to the park.
Mhm.
It's just a little bit further down.
Yeah, I don't know if folks know it's there.
I bet they don't.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea to get some signage. I have it in my notes.
But we thought would be valuable to share, our progress on the survey. Certainly welcome any feedback that the subcommittee want to share at this point. And we'll again plan to bring this back at the beginning of next year with the complete results, with again seeking feedback on recommendations for future improvements.
Yeah, a little more time, you would get some more hits on certain things in there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we bring that back, of course, we want some funding options.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we would anticipate, with the kickstarting the budget process, next year. This would dovetail well with identifying what park improvements you want to put in the budget or identifying for the budget.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any comments on that item? Okay, thank you. Let's move up to under supplemental attachments, E4, which is just public informational, public works facilities cancellation notices. And we're showing.
Chair, we got a couple other items prior to.
Say,
E2 and E3 are still, we haven't gone to yet.
I didn't see, I'm sorry, I didn't see E2.
They don't have supplemental attachments, but they are items.
That's the next one on the agenda, moves right into, I don't see them, Mike. E2, it goes E1 to E4.
Page 1 under E.
So we're.
Oh, gotcha, okay, I take that back. All right, still on E, let's move into E2, I stand corrected, and Memorial Bench Program.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. This was an item that the subcommittee recommended as a new item for discussion, based on the addition of the new park benches in City Plaza, but also to formally establish a program for folks who would like to purchase a memorial bench, to recognize a significant other or it's a person of interest in our community. We've done this kind of on an ad hoc basis with members of our community, and the goal is to formally establish a program. So our park superintendent developed a draft program. Mike, do you have those? Handy? Bring that forward. In addition to the discussion about Memorial Bench, was also a commemorative tree program for. I think the subcommittee recommended kind of bringing both for anybody who would want to kind of dedicate a tree.
Instead of a bench. Maybe
Instead
a
of
combo, like a tree and a bench.
So this program outline was put together to identify how the program could work. The second page is actually a form that gets submitted. I don't know if you go to page 2, Mike. So you can identify the name of the donor information, the amenity that's requested, which could either be the bench, and of course if you want plaque ready, along with the person or group to be commemorating the donor signature. So this is something we put on our website, and could be used as a tool to direct folks that are interested in purchasing a park bench. I think going back to page 1, one thing we could add is kind of reflects someone who was interested in buying a new bench. We could identify that the benches on the plaza are available for, dedication and, those have an existing price, I think, associated with them, so we could put that, we could add that as a plaza bench and put a price point to those. Otherwise, one of the reasons why price points aren't added is some of the benches we put up at open space, they were hand selected and the color, and so they vary a little bit in price. And so depending, get an 8-foot or a 6-foot and maybe the style. So it might be something we need to identify that depends on the design selected. Something like that. But this would be something we could bring to council with the subcommittee's recommendation or support. I think it's a great idea. A number of other communities have similar programs. It gives community an opportunity to, get a bench put in their name or family member's name. And it's a way that funding could be used. If you're purchasing an existing bench to be put towards purchase of new or additional benches in other parks. So we would want to establish kind of a revolving fund.
I was just thinking on that too, and I know there's been a few folks that are asking about a bench to or a couple benches on the winery trail.
Yeah.
Going up where you make the turn by the old winery rooms right there. A lot of folks said it'd be nice to have a bench right there, or even one halfway down the trail a little bit to stop and rest or do whatever. I wonder if we could, if that's something we could throw into this too. That would
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think this is really intended for all city parks, facilities, and even street right of ways. I mean, ensuring that, in the streets, we have to make sure their location is, not creating an issue for accessibility, which is true in parks too, but, we're getting more of these requests and it's, ample time to establish a formal program and actually market it, because they're folks that may not even be aware that this is an opportunity.
What's the average cost of one of those to, like, say you wanted to donate and get a bench and $2,000.
One of the things we wanted to do is we want to come up with we want to choose get a list together of just having maybe like 4 or 5 benches.
Yeah.
That way we have to keep it on the continuity of town.
Right.
Different benches all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, but one of the things the reason why we put the trees out there too, because I've gotten inquiries from the community. I get, phone calls in my office there. They're like, well, we don't want a bench, but we would definitely donate a tree. Or a tree at 20 on a box of 24 inches, which is already a pretty good sized tree. That's one of the reasons why we put it up there.
How much do those,
$500.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, you're good.
David, I think you and I were on Rotary when we did Kleiser Park.
Right.
And we did the plaques, the little tile squares, and I forget what those were, but if we could find an area where we could do almost like a quilt size with the different plaques that people want to donate. And my apologies for not being able to see that too well, but when it comes to just doing a plaque and not buying the entire bench, and we take the plaque and we put it on the bench, the perception is that that individual purchased the entire bench when in fact they didn't. So that's, I don't know how we get over that, or we don't even get concerned about it. If the plaque goes on a bench, I think the individual has to buy the bench as well.
That's what we had.
But that's just do we have it that way, or?
We want to make sure that the guidelines stipulate that you're buying the full bench.
Okay.
And I think that's the intent, but we clarify it's, you're gonna just buy the plaque. And you could, person could specify, generally they want the plaque because it's a way to memorialize or recognize the person or entity, but we've already installed those on the plaza. If someone is interested to purchase one of those, to purchase the whole bench with the plaque, and again, we would put that fund in put any revenue in a special fund for this additional benches.
In the benches on that winery trail, Brian, we probably want to look at getting dividers so that we don't make them too comfortable.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, whereas in the plaza, we can at least control the campers.
Yeah, and they sell
Yeah.
benches with either the seat divider or
Backless,
there's backless, and then there's ones that I think that have the handle.
the handle corrugated.
Yeah.
Not very comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. Take a little break.
Yeah.
So they don't let people land.
I never considered that or completely forgot about that aspect of it.
The nice, they can sleep tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I think there's a lot of interest, and with your support, we can button this up, bring it to council with a resolution to
Absolutely.
formally establish the bench program.
I have one quick comment. It's a great idea. Thank you for bringing it up. My only concern would be maintenance down the road as we get more and more benches out there. Who's gonna be in charge of maintenance? A lot of these things, if they're the design of them, if they're wood. We've seen what's happened on the boulevard, so it's just keeping that in mind going forward.
Right.
I know it's, there is a maintenance issue and finances in the city are probably.
Yeah, and we've to address that issue, we spec the particular brand is called Do More, DUMOR. And these are very heavy duty benches with graffiti resistant paint, and so.
And they're metal.
And they're metal, yeah,
Okay.
and so we believe that they're gonna be relatively maintenance free. If a tree or a car or something hits it, that's a different story, but it's a comparison to the wood, which, now we're seeing is, it's kind of meeting its age and,
That's
requires.
Good job.
So the benches that we installed downtown in the plaza, just to give you an example, each one of those weighs about 500 pounds. It's 100% iron, and it's 475 pounds. We have a few benches that we installed at the Porterville Creek Preserve. One of them has been there now was donated by a resident. It's been there now for 4 years.
Up on the creek,
Yep.
Three Bridges Trail.
Yep, and it looks-
That's a nice one.
It looks exactly the same. It's been there 4 years. So
Okay.
the material there is the durability on the bench.
And fire resistant up there, because we really want them to be fire resistant. Some folks try to burn them, that carve into them,
Right.
and then, if there ever is a wildfire, we wanna try to eliminate that.
Then I figured those.
That's it, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I'd say bring that one to council. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Next item, discussion for the city park picnic tables.
All right, I think this one, Vice Chair, you kind of brought to
Yeah.
our attention was the picnic tables at City Park were, really long, they didn't have any breaks in them, which, it was very difficult to, you kind of had to pick your path and go with it. There was no commingling or intervening pathway. Since then, our park staff, looked at whether some of those were relocatable, and the footings are pretty embedded in the, what they came up with, is partly based on my suggestion, was we create intervening rows. And so that's the approach they've taken of creating some rows, kind of shorten up the length, create some separation between them. You lose a few spots, but
There's a
so
lot of
many out
spots
there.
I mean, it was frustrating. I walked over there and saw that, and there was folks having a party right up on the left corner, top left corner right there. And they were moving picnic tables over, and I just kind of looked at them like, we got all these, but they wanted to have that corner specifically.
One of the things we're gonna do, we 100% completed. We did that, we cut those and they look great. I think it was a great idea. I never thought about it myself. I've been here for 15 years.
There's just too much picnic table over
But
there.
one of the things we're gonna do, we're gonna add some mulch there,
Nice.
and we're gonna pressure wash the tops and paint them. That's when we get some nice weather.
They'll start getting used in the summer too,
Yeah.
because with those breaks in there, it's a break between parties or whatever, so I think it'll work out
I
great.
think Javier started pressure washing one of them, and then we ran out of time that day, but
Nice.
so we'll get those going. So that was done.
All right, and now Can we get to 4 now? My cancellations that I'm.
Yeah. This is just a notice reflecting that, the next 2 regular meetings were canceled because of one fell the day after Christmas and one was right after the Thanksgiving holiday, and that's why we scheduled the meeting today.
And then number 5, the one that was kicked down to us again from the previous city council meeting is the flag policy amendments.
Right, thank you, Vice Chair. So included in your packet is a copy of the resolution that the council adopted. Let's see, what was the date there? It's February 22nd of this year. This resolution reflects the then direction by council to add a commemorative flagpole in the plaza. It was based in part on recommendation by or request by the Cloverdale Rotary Club to install a peace flag. And so the discussion by councils, supported their request. And their request was to install a flagpole in the northeastern corner of the plaza area, the plaza grass area, and fly the peace flags. And part of that amendment to the flag policy, the recommendation was to identify that as the commemorative flag only for any approved commemorative flags. And most recently, council at the last meeting heard request or received an agenda report from a request that was previously received from Mr. Richard Green, requesting that the list of commemorative flags be modified to include the sons and daughters of the Pearl Harbor survivors. And council ultimately directed staff to go ahead and add that to the flagpole this December. And so we plan on doing that. We have to bring that back to council to memorialize that decision. But likewise to also discuss the issue of the commemorative flagpole itself, because as it's currently written, no commemorative flags would otherwise be flown because we don't have a commemorative flagpole. So the kind of discussion is around, just that, the commemorative flagpole. The subcommittee previously discussed the concept of adding a commemorative flagpole to the front of City Hall, kind of to create to frame up the front of City Hall with a flag, our current flag that would support the U.S. flag as well as the state flag, but also a city flag and a commemorative flag. But council was somewhat divided. One, there were some concerns about the cost of purchasing it. There was also some sentiment that any commemorative flagpole should, in terms of the preference would be its location would be to continue to be on the plaza. So that's kind of where we left it. There's a lot of intervening details that can elaborate on, but I'll kind of pause there to see what the thoughts are. Obviously, I think there's a need to at least clarify the existing policy in some way. And then I did want to point out that we received late communication this afternoon from Mr. Richard Green. That is included in the packet. The communication that was received. It was addressed to the full Cloverdale City Council, but it was asked or requested. There was a physical copy dropped off at City Hall. And requested to be placed on this subcommittee agenda. So we're trying to be fully transparent here with the communication received and share the communication with council. I think Mr. Green's pretty expressive in his concerns about this discussion around the commemorative flag.
Well, may I, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Well, you know, I think this subcommittee worked very hard on coming up with some alternative, solutions to the divide in the community. What and where, flags should be flown. You know, and there's two separate items here. There's, the list of commemorative flags that are accepted by the city council to fly on a pole. And, you know, I'm 100% in favor of the sons and daughters of Pearl Harbor survivors. I think that's a great flag to fly. You know, there's a ton of other flags that could be flown on that commemorative flagpole. The Marine Corps birthday celebrates for a week. The Navy birthday. Coast Guard birthday, Air Force birthday, we could fly a flag on that commemorative flagpole 365 days a year without any problem. We need, as far as I'm concerned, to decide two things. We need to decide where to put a commemorative flagpole. Because I'm one in particular that thinks that the Stars and Stripes should fly along with the state, the MIA, and a city flag. And that would take up all of the spaces on the Stars and Stripes pole. Right outside of Kevin's window would be another flagpole, which would have the commemorative flags. And that's where they would fly according to the city council's flag program. That flag program also needs to be tweaked to the extent that Councilmember Wheeler brought forward, pointing out what Watsonville was it?
No, it was the city of Gilroy, and I have their policy right here, and there was a lot of things that I liked in that policy.
In that policy, I think is something that similar to that, we need to adapt. And the individuals would submit it to the city council to have their flag listed on the commemorative flags. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but nevertheless, there needs to be a process in place.
Right.
So, you know, I'm quite comfortable with resubmitting it, tweaking it to some extent. And say, I'm in favor of a commemorative flagpole. I think it makes sense to put it in front of City Hall where it can be seen, right along with the Stars and Stripes, just a couple, inches below whatever it is, 12 inches, I think it is. As opposed to on the plaza where space is crowded right now. So that's all I have to say about that. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I was, thinking about this and we have some folks that came and they are just completely opposed to having the flagpole in the plaza. So I thought about it in a couple different ways, and I tend to agree with that now, because after talking to some folks, I think one, that if we get a commemorative flagpole, we put it out in front of City Hall, it is visible, one, and two, it frames City Hall. It completes City Hall in my mind. We have the Stars and Stripes and the flags over the California flag flown by law. And then, right, like I said, right outside Kevin's office here, the other one will go same distance, and that can be the commemorative flagpole. One, so I'm in agreement with a new flagpole in front of City Hall. I'm taking away the plaza, and I agree we should put it out front. I think that should go up to council. And then also, and like the vice mayor was saying, is a tweak to the policy. And I think, like I said, I kind of capitalized and looked at Gilroy's. I looked at a lot of different cities, and some of the things for Gilroy, and I think it's a great policy, and I'll read it. It says, for an applicant to request the display of a commemorative flag at City Hall, an applicant must be completed, which shall require a minimum of the following: full name, physical address, phone number, electronic mail address, communications by somebody that's bringing it forward, so we know who's doing it. The name and full color image accurately depicting the commemorative flag, so a picture of the flag, statement and explanation of the purpose of the flag, including what the flag stands for, any local, national, international affiliation, brief history, maybe a website, and any other relevant information to be considered for the city council. So you're bringing a whole package to the city, and just instead of holding up a flag, the month in which the commemorative flag is requested to be displayed. And then here's another one, and I hear a lot when, especially on the latest commemorative flags is when you hear, I have the community support. Well, okay. In order to prove that, then they came up, and this is one that I like, is a minimum of 150 signatures from registered voters in Cloverdale showing support for that flag. Then you have community support. That all gets put together in a big package and you come up to council and hand it to us, and we can make a solid decision on that instead of arguing about this or that, or who did this and what's it mean. Let's get that put to council. And I think that should be put into the policy and reviewed by council and see if that's something that they agree on.
That's a good idea. There also needs to be some type of a statement that just because the package is complete and submitted with 150 signatures, it doesn't mean that the city council is gonna approve that flag.
Exactly.
Because there's certain, well, I'm not gonna get into why, but I think you can read between the lines.
Correct, just because that package comes complete to city council doesn't mean automatic approval. It's still going to go through the full discussion and a vote and everything. So yes, I agree that something needs to be put into the policy on a tweak. That's something we decide to do that is in there. So I agree.
So, not that the minutes, if we do action minutes, we just, so I am clear. From the standpoint of a commemorative flag, your direction would be that we do want to continue to have a commemorative flagpole?
Yes,
Have one
commemorative flagpole and
In front of city hall.
location would be at City Hall.
yeah, taking away the aspect of putting it out in the plaza and moving it in front of City Hall to frame City Hall, bring that to the council.
Yeah, I think just on that, I think the specific reference in the policy, section 6.3, it refers to, you know, the commemorative flagpole being located on the City Park Plaza.
Yeah.
So that's an easy amendment to reflect that the commemorative flagpole will be located, you know, in front of City Hall.
Yes.
In a location equidistant from the existing flagpole. I will seek to obtain Gilroy's policy. It sounds like there's support for incorporating that, their kind of requirements or consideration of a commemorative flag into the process. In what we may do, rather than memorialize the form in a resolution, is reference a form as an exhibit so that it's easier if we change the form, you know, over time, if there's we don't have to re-adopt the resolution.
Right.
It's just change the you know, we'll say in a form approved by city council.
And that one, I think, is 5 or 6 pages long. That was just a little blurb out of it right there that gives their direction on how to bring a flag forward. And that's what I would kind of like to add to ours. And I agree, David, just kind of, so we don't have to constantly resolution that they can just bring it up and it'd be easy to do. So,
And how,
May I?
yes.
well, wait 1 second.
Sure.
How do you want to handle the Cloverdale flag?
Right.
The ones that we have now are outdated. They have the old logo on them. And from what I understand from staff, they may not be indoor, outdoor flags. So what do you want to do with that?
I think we want to bring to council identifying that the city would like to fly a city flag, because that's not in the policy currently.
Right.
So start with just making sure the policy reflects flying the you know, a city flag. We, you know, because obviously if council supports this idea and we give this direction to purchase a commemorative flagpole, we can then begin the process of also searching, you know, how do we get make sure we can get a flag
Right.
fabricated, you know, the appropriate flag material that's outdoors with our logo on it. We'll want to identify to make sure we address the not so much the US flag code, but kind of the flag etiquette of flying the the US and the state and the direction that they sit, with the appropriate lanyards. Cause it might be that we fly, well, we'll have to look at that, but,
Well, I think, David, that goes, if it's a federal building, it's the American flag, the MIA flag, and the state flag. If it's a state building, it's the Stars and Stripes, the state flag, and then the MIA. I'm not sure where the city flag would fit in that.
okay. Cause our current flagpoles allows for 3 flags maximum. So when we added, if again, council supports adding a commemorative flagpole, we'll look for adding 3 just to make sure we've got the appropriate flexibility. Because if we're flying an MIA, a city, state, and US flag, that's 4. So then we need to have 5 for commemorative, but we can, we'll just have to make sure that it meets with the, flag etiquette, how those are flown.
Thank you. Sorry, dear.
So, no problem. So I was at the last council meeting and I didn't know, well, I did see this on the agenda. And I simply wanted to make a comment at the council meeting that we had a previous ordinance or resolution in August of 2022 for flying the flag, operating with our one flagpole. I suggested, rather than spending any money, any more time, why don't we just go back to that? Make it easy. And that was my thoughts. Again, they're still my thoughts. However, I've talked to Richard Green, and I did get a data dump of some additional information. And it seems to me, and I did see a previous communication from Rotary member back in May of, or I forget when it was, I have it on my phone, but there was just some, I think what happened here is this changing of the ordinance, there's a resolution and this commemorative flagpole, and Rotary ending up pulling out of the commemorative flagpole was because it wasn't necessarily the truth. The first Rotary test is it the truth? And appears that there were some behind the scenes things going on. So that's what stuck under my craw some people are upset about a flag that's up. Other people like the flag, the idea of it, people in the community. We had an exhibition at our council meeting of the simplicity of how hard it is to deny someone putting up a flag, putting forward a commemorative flag. The Sons and Daughters of Pearl Harbor is a fine organization. I'm sure their numbers are limited, probably dwindling, but we're going to have all kinds of things come up at us down the road. So the aspect of a petition is good. I think it would help the council to avoid certain instances. However, we still are in this position where the main reason for this occurring, this discussion, was because some people didn't like what was being flown out there. And until that is acknowledged, I think you're just kind of brushing things over, and you're gonna, we say there's public support. The data dump only procured 3 people that wanted an additional flag or an additional flagpole.
So I mean, data dump, what are you referring to?
Richard's email?
Yeah,
Oh, that's okay.
yeah. He did a Freedom of Information Act.
Public Records Act.
Yeah.
And it's hard to decipher. I couldn't decipher a lot of it, but
Right.
so I would just love everyone to be honest and truthful in what they mean. And I really don't think it's a big deal. Let people come forward with our one flagpole that we've had for however many years we've been in business. Let's not spend a lot of time on it, other than going back to our previously approved resolution from August of 2022. But we were using the one flagpole and we can amend it to include the petition and let's go from there.
Well, David, just to let you know, I'm one individual that feels that the Stars and Stripes should fly alone. And it's got nothing to do with me liking or not liking any particular organization that wants a commemorative flag. I cannot see what difference it makes whether it flies on the commemorative pole right in front of City Hall, or if it flies on the same flagpole, other than like the
I
fireworks.
can't either other than the
Well, like the
price.
fireworks issue, we as a city council, you, 50% of the people love you, 50% of the people hate you. And we have to appease both individuals within the community, and this is the way to do it. So as far as I'm concerned, conflict of interest, whatever, I'm gonna support what I feel is the right way to go, so.
And David, the same thing goes for me. I saw the data dump, I read it, and Richard getting his, whatever he's digging up, that's perfectly fine, absolutely, and I'm one of the other people, being a veteran, I'm adamantly opposed to. And if we're gonna, let's just say it, the pride flag flying up on with the Stars and Stripes, not just the pride flag, I have absolutely no problem with the pride flag flying. But that is a neutral flagpole to me out there, that is the Stars and Stripes. That is the state flag by law. And that's how I'm gonna keep it. I'm never gonna change my mind on that. So the compromise to make everybody happy is to put a flagpole out there, allowing the pride flag to be flowing during its month, the sons and daughters, against child abuse, all of those flags that the council has approved, that showcases them out here and it frames City Hall. So that's where we're
by
at.
law.
By law, you have to have the Stars and Stripes and the state flag up there.
Okay. And then there's I haven't looked at this and I appreciate you guys' take. I have a son that was in the military, served in Iraq. I'm perfectly aware and proud of America and the Stars and Stripes. But again, if the city has the money, go for it. Also, look at what transpired in the Rotary did pull out for a reason.
Yeah, and I never could figure out, I don't know why the Rotary pulled out.
They told the truth. So you just said it, which is great.
Okay,
Thank you for saying that.
absolutely.
Yeah, now we know, and that's, but acknowledging that is good.
Absolutely, that's been my stance from day one. And I'm willing to compromise to make, like Vice Mayor said, we're not gonna make everybody happy.
I know.
We're trying to make 50% or more or less people
Yeah.
agree, and we're trying to compromise here and get a flagpole where everybody's happy and it's fine.
And I think that in terms of getting people happy, I've been on boards and different things. And one thing that I love about Trump was he didn't want to make anyone happy. And you should realize as council people, you won't make everyone happy.
No.
People are gonna be mad. So, but going out and trying to make everyone happy, I think is a mistake. And going for 50-50 or whatever.
And in the big scheme of things, $3,500, even if it costs $5,000, I don't think that's a big budget item for us. Maybe we're not gonna get it done this year, but we're gonna get it done. And in the interim, we'll figure someplace to fly those flags.
Not a big issue for me. I just happen to be here.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Don't you, sir?
Are you still over on Washington?
You betcha.
Oh, okay.
Vice Chair, we have
Yes,
public
go
comment.
ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was in communication with Mr. Mahoney twice, once last month and once a few days ago, asking him to put me on the agenda regarding my request for Live Oak Drive repair.
Okay.
I don't see it anywhere.
If I can, the request, is regarding a water meter.
No, that's a second issue.
Okay,
The primary issue, which dates back a month ago for the meeting was canceled due on the 24th, was to permit Mr. Mahoney to upload pictures and documents regarding repairing Live Oak Drive. And I don't see that.
It's not on the agenda.
No, and and I asked him to do that because Mr. Montaigne told me to have it on the agenda before so I can discuss it with you. Mr. Maloney evidently did not respond to my request by email. Now, I did that, I resent that a few days ago, the same items, and I don't see it here either. I'd like to know why Mr. Maloney didn't put it on there. And also if I can discuss it with you at this meeting without Mr. Maloney's submittal to you. And if he has those files, if he can put them up on the screen so you can see them.
But Vice Chair, if I can speak to the request, it's not on the agenda, so unfortunately, it would be a violation of the Brown Act. We discuss items not on the agenda. With that said, I think there's an opportunity for staff to, I did not see that communication, so I apologize. I'll have to.
I didn't copy you on that. I sent them both directly to Mr. Maloney. I copied.
And then I called you back and let you know that the meeting be canceled.
And then I sent, in response to that, I resent this communications to Mr. Maloney a few days ago. And I didn't see anything here.
Well, my recommendation is why don't we'll schedule a meeting with staff.
My time is valuable. I really resent that.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that you? I don't want to take up more time than necessary, but I'd like to have this addressed, and I really resent Mr. Maloney's omission on my emails to him on 2 occasions.
I'm happy to set up a meeting with you, sir, since I'm Mr. Maloney, I'm the one you're speaking to about. But since it's not on the agenda, we can't discuss it at this
Why
meeting.
did you not put it in? Why didn't you?
Mike, don't answer that, Mike.
No.
I'm gonna ask him not to answer
Okay,
that.
fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, David, I'm suggesting that we open public comment and at least,
Thank you. I'll just
give,
Yeah,
give,
yeah.
3 or 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We may not be able to take action.
I understand.
Surely
I
understand what
understand.
your
Well,
concerns are.
without the
So-
materials in front of me.
So with that being said, I'll ask the.
So we will open public comment and we'll give you 3-4 minutes.
Thank you for your
see what you gotta
comment.
do. Yes.
A year and a half ago, I went to the city council, and I believe that the city manager remembers that, asking to have Live Oak Drive repaired, included in
SB1.
the SB1. And I didn't, and he said maybe, but nothing occurred. Now, since that time, Mr. Montaigne has allowed city staff to dump a bunch of cobbles at the intersection of Live Oak Drive and Lake Street, which solved the serious access problem from Lake Street to Live Oak Drive. It's still a terrible intersection. At the same time, I've lived on Live Oak Drive for 50 years. And nothing has been done except a couple patches which have been gone. And right now it's almost all, it's about 1/2 paved and 1/2 deteriorated. My neighbor spent $200 on some class 2 road fill in some of the worst spots. I reimbursed him for half that. I still feel I'm a second-class citizen after living in city limits for 50 years and having nobody repair a horrible road, city road. And that's why I went to you a year and a half ago asking to repair that. Nothing's been done, except for the fact that the really terribly hazardous intersection has been partially repaired. But meantime, my tires are wearing out. I have a low slung car, an old Honda Accord, and I'm concerned about its scraping. That's one issue. The second issue is when my water meter was repaired. This is the second thing. It was replaced with a smaller one that was there to meet.
We can, when we get to the water meter line item, I do have the information for you and the pictures of
Great.
the one taken out.
I'll wait there. So at any rate, I'd like to be able to have this Live Oak Drive repair officially addressed and have you support me in having a budget item to repair Live Oak Drive. Since you don't have the pictures, since Mr. Maloney did not upload them for you, you can't see what I'm talking about. And I don't know why he didn't do that, because he had 2 occasions from me, 2, not just 1.
Well, Richard, thank you for sharing that with us, and personally, as vice mayor, I'll talk to David. And we'll make sure that we at least go out and visit the intersection that
That'd be
you're
great.
talking about on the east side of the highway. And my apologies, sometimes things just fall through the cracks. We're so busy, but I understand your frustration.
Yeah,
So,
that's his job, that's what
Yeah.
I'm concerned about. Now, that's, the intersection is one thing, the intersection is serviceable now after the dumping of all the cobbles there, that's no question about that. But it's still a substandard transition. The other thing, the main consideration is Live Oak Drive itself is hazardous to walk on. And I'm not as far as I used to be, and I walk on it all the time, I'm concerned about it. And it's been there for 50 years with no repair, none. It's deteriorated now to the point of being half asphalt and half whatever's left.
Yeah.
And then I can wait for the, is the water meter on this?
Yeah, it'll come up.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We'll get back to you as soon as.
You're seeing about it.
Yeah, the water main project.
And Vice Chair, the standing items you can take with in whatever order you recommend, so if you
I-
want to take up that one first.
I would suggest, let's go ahead and move item number 7 to the top and, have respect for Richard's time here.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so I can speak to that. So I do have the.
So let me frame this issue. Well, first of all, just starting with the agenda item, citywide drought relief water system project implementation. This item is in regards to our smart meter project, along with other implementation tasks, which include the SCADA improvements at the water treatment plant and within the distribution system. So this is a comprehensive project that involves multiple tasks, but the one element that we want to provide an update on is the implementation of the smart meter project. We've now went over about half of the 3,400 meters in the city have been replaced. We kind of met that threshold just a little over a week ago. So we've been making steady progress in converting existing water meters, which for the most part, many were outdated or aged and older, but didn't have the characteristics of the new turbo meter or smart meter. And the consulting contractor on this called InvoCore has been working away, and it's something that our staff has been spent quite a bit of time on is coordinating the meter project. We did receive a communication from Mr. Angelo asking about Live Oak Drive and the meter. The meter that was installed was a 5/8 inch meter. The previous or the service pipe that provides service to his residence is a 3/4 inch or 0.3 meter. So he's asking, the request is for an increase in capacity of that meter from a 5/8 to a 1 inch meter.
That would be optimum. That's not a like for like. A like for like would be a 3/4 for a 3/4.
So the meter that was installed, the InvoCore meters are 3/4 on the city side and 5/8 on your side.
Right.
Your meter that was removed was a 5/8 meter.
Oh, well, it's okay.
So
Well,
it
I
was
can't-
100% a 5/8 because I have a picture of it right here, and you can see it says 5/8 right underneath the bottom of the meter.
Okay.
And so that's been checked with your service account, the replacement, it's very well documented. So you actually got maybe a little bit better because your influence side is a little bit larger at 3/4 instead of being a neck down inlet and outlet.
Yeah, well, so I like for like occurred correctly then. But what I originally asked Mr. Montaigne for was a 1 inch for future improvement I would actually pay for changing this, the lateral from the city main to my house to a 1 inch. Now, that would be on me.
Yes, and then, yeah, we discussed it to get an encroachment permit and a public
For
record.
me, I was alarmed at the fact that I had a 3/4 inch service and I'm charged with 3/4 inch service, but I have a 5/8 inch meter.
It's all charged the same. If you have a 5/8 meter, a 3/4 meter,
Yeah,
or a 1 inch
okay.
meter, the meter charge is the same.
And the reason for that is because where I live on Live Oak Drive, it's like a wildland urban interface. And I have I guess a third of an acre above my house, it's solid oaks. And grass and manzanita and madrone and all that kind of stuff. And to reach that with a garden hose, I need as much pressure as I can. I have a 3/4 inch pipe through my house up to my back hose bed. And then I would like to get as much pressure through that as possible. So therefore, I'm trying to maximize the pressure. So I can hose down that if I need to in the event of a well. Or a threat of a well.
A larger meter wouldn't make the pressure go up.
Well, a 3/4 inch, I looked at the meters that you replaced it with. I think it's a great, I think smart meters are a great idea. If they're 20-year lifespan, then the battery's gone, you have to replace it. Are you aware of that?
One more time.
The meters you are installing, the smart meters are a great idea. They save money, they actually give me extra parking because I don't have to park over the meter. But they have a 20-year lifespan. Are you aware of that? Well, they do, they have a 20-year lifespan.
Yeah, we have a warranty for 20 years for the meter.
Right. So I was hoping to get the large meter anyway to maximize the pressure to my back half of my property above my house. But unfortunately, Lifelike doesn't do that. Lifelike means I have a 5/8 inch input to my house rather than 3/4. Since it's already been installed, there's nothing I can do except fall on your mercy to spend more money. Or have me spend more money and have it replaced with a 3/4.
And I think to kind of outline this request, it's our program of replacing meters is just that, it's to replace existing meters like for like. It wasn't the opportunity necessarily for every resident to consider upgrading, but there is a process for that, and we're not denying Mr. St. Angelo the opportunity to apply for a larger meter. I think our public works director provided the process for doing so is to obtain an encroachment permit and file the necessary paperwork and documentation to get city approval for upgrading the meter, which also would change the billing process concurrently. So there's no intent here by staff to deny it. Now, one could ask, do we put a particular customer's meter swap on hold in the hope that it's going to change out in the future? I mean, the answer is, yeah, we could do that, but again, that would stymie our efforts to kind of move this meter project along. And if he so chooses, we'll certainly, and they replace that, we'll certainly reuse that meter. If there's,
I think one of the bigger concerns was you were under the assumption that it wasn't a like for like exchange, right?
Now I find out that it is.
Yeah.
I actually looked that up now. So I don't want to spend your time on something that's just a frivolous request. But if I can get a 3/4 inch meter, I'll be happy to go through the process of doing that.
Well, Richard, when are you going to be doing your additions that you're going to need a bigger?
Well, I only want that for a few. I'm not going to ever change that up hill above me because that's a kind of native oak forest, and there's forest above me on top of the hill, and it's just a matter of fire safety for nervous Nelly. That's all. So
Okay, so there's not a time rush.
No, there's no time rush. In fact, regarding the implementation, I don't want to get ahead of any, because mine's already been done very well. Even though I disagree with the guy's methodology, it was done very well, and I'll be happy to come in at the end at your convenience. And then there's two aspects. One is to change to a 1-inch meter for future upgrading. But that's not necessary. The most important thing to me now is to get a 3/4 inch meter.
So in order to install a 1-inch meter, we would want, it would need a 1-inch service line
All right,
coming.
so we don't have that. So a 3/4 is fine. If that's possible, great. I've taken too much of your time already. I'll come back when Mr. Maloney puts me on the agenda with the material that I've already forwarded to him twice now.
Well, let's do this, Richard. I'm gonna be getting back to you about the condition of the street.
Okay,
Hopefully, the beginning of next week.
okay.
And at that point in time, we'll get back to you with a time for you to request the change of the meters as well.
Maybe Ms. Apodaca could look at that intersection because it is a really gnarly civil engineering problem because there's water running down and it is eroded the intersection.
Well, we'll definitely take a look at it here this week.
Well, thank you very much for your accommodations, very, very much, and for your courtesy too, in spite of my heated discussion.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You can stay. You want-
Well, unfortunately, I have another dentist thing, but here's the other question. Now, how do I go about doing a 3/4?
You would do I guess you could fill out a start service request form. I'll even email you the,
When we get back to you.
yeah.
Condition of the street, we'll have a packet and something for you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You know, I don't, since it was done like for like, I don't mind paying with the extra upgrade.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Rich.
Thank you, Richard.
And for indulgence and your courtesy. But wish I could stay, but short.
Have a good day, Richard.
Thank you. You too.
Kevin has a seat at the table now.
All right, Mike. We moved, that was item F7 up to the top, so now we were coming down into the parks and update on Lido Ranch.
Well, and, Vice Chair, if I can, just real quickly, on the citywide drought relief system project, we have our city engineer in the meeting today, and Vanessa, I thought this would be an opportunity if there was any, we're doing a lot on this project and you're leading up a lot of that effort. If there's any other points you want to cover, like on the SCADA work and or any other updates that you might want to share with the subcommittee.
And I apologize for cutting you off there, Vanessa. My apologies.
All good. In your packet here, we've got a couple of proposals. So we need, as part of the grant, there's 3 components. One is the one we discussed, the AMI meter upgrade. The other component is providing SCADA supervisory and data acquisition services to the remote sites in the distribution system. And then the third component is well projects up at the city's supply field. So specific to the SCADA upgrades, we need some additional radio studies. The last radio studies that looked at this project were in 2015. And since then, a lot has changed, not only technology, but, tree growth and all kinds of things that interfere with the line of sight. And so we do need some supplemental radio study information. And we went and got 2 quotes for the work. They're both included in your packet here, but just a quick summary. Infinity Wireless is the lower quote because they're a little bit more local. And we are looking at a lump sum bid for $23,800 on that. The other quote we got was $31,015 from Applied Technology Group. They're both good companies. They know what they're doing. The big difference is that Applied Technology Group would be traveling from quite a distance. And so they've included travel and hotel stays, travel, lodging, and per diem at not a small cost. And so we are recommending to move forward with Infinity Wireless. It's just something to supplement the work, recognizing that ArcSign has some limitations in this realm. And so that is our recommendation. I met with Susie yesterday. She is on the line here today. And we're looking at potentially bringing a budget amendment to city council just to cover this and other arc sign work as one holistic kind of budget amendment for the city of Cloverdale. It is grant funding, and I think Susie was going to dig in a little bit and see where the grant dollars were allocated in the budget to see and confirm if we actually need to bring a budget amendment forward to city council. But that's what we're looking at this time. We would like to move forward with hiring Infinity Wireless to keep going with the SCADA work.
And Vice Chair, I support and concur with the city engineer's recommendation that we contract with Infinity to do the wireless study. This is a critical component to ensure that the SCADA system will communicate via a radio system, and just ensuring that the communication system functions properly and communicates properly. So this is it is a critical element. Did request that we just make sure that we know that this project is funded by grant. So that'd be the revenue source, but the expenditure may not be in the budget because we didn't identify that when we developed the budget. So that's why a budget amendment may be necessary, is to ensure we put the money in the budget from the grant to cover this expense. And I know that's the part that Susie and Vanessa are working on, to just confirm that whether the expense would be covered by the grant. If not, it would be a water enterprise expense. But it's a critical element of the SCADA project that we're implementing under this DWR grant, or citywide drought relief grant.
And David, what was the final cost on this data? I'm sorry, 17.
Yeah, the quote from Infinity was 23,800. The other quote that was obtained was for 31,000. So given it's nearly $7,000 less, or $6,200 and something, it seems like it's a preferable quote.
The other benefit to Infinity Wireless is that they're proposing to use a combination of boom truck and drone technology, which was another thing that we liked. It just felt like a more robust product that they would be delivering.
We're just seeking your concurrence with moving forward. We'll firm up the budget decision. I don't know, Susie, is there anything you wanted to weigh on the budget perspective for this expense?
Yeah, it looks like we have ample expense available in the budget. When we created the budget, we didn't exactly know when we were going to spend everything. So we kind of broke it up and said half of it would be in this year and half of it would be in next year. That's kind of how we budgeted it. But it does appear, depending on how many more expenses come in, that we should have ample budget.
So if we have ample budget, the expenditure would be within my authority, so we could execute an agreement and move forward.
I agree.
Yeah. And we've already executed an agreement with ArcSign, the primary consultant that would be implementing the SCADA project. So that is underway. Council did discuss, just as an aside, council did discuss whether to do some additional improvements in the SCADA system at the plant itself. And our city engineer is working on proposals to do that work. So we'll be, I think the plan is to bring that forward for consideration in future meetings.
That's right, David. We're waiting on a revised scope from ArcSign for improvements at the treatment plant.
I think that was kind of your direction, Vice Chair, kind of if we can do the improvements
Yes.
and the distribution system concurrent with the improvements
Yes.
at the treatment plant, so that we're not left.
I mean, everything's got to communicate, so that's where I'm at on this. Is absolutely is I mean, if we need to upgrade with technology and all that stuff, let's make it work right the first time, you know? Anything else on that? Oh, that's still the.
I think that completes our discussion on the citywide drop relief water system project implementation.
Perfect. Well, now we'll move up to update on the Lighter Ranch understanding items. That was number 7. We did that to accommodate Richard. So now we're just going right down the list, starting at 1. So update on the Lighter Ranch.
Well, not a lot to report out. Really, our next step on the Lighter Ranch project is to submit a funding request to Ag and Open Space to support the all the planning, trail design work, and also cover city expenses that will be necessary to be able to open up that park for public use. We're still finalizing the request. But preliminarily, some of the things that we think are important to include, of course, includes doing the trailhead design. And that'll include the survey work for determining the parking area and the sign and access points. We know that there will be important to include public access amenities, so, location of fence, do we need to approve any fencing? Do we need to put it identify signage, and the types of amenities? Long term, there's gonna be, a lot of work to improve the trail system and maybe, close off some trails and develop some new ones. We hope that the new trail development will be limited, since there's already really good trails up there. Of course, engaging the community, doing the survey work on the park boundaries. And then we're also looking at the funding requirements. We'd like to put in a request. I think just to kind of address some of your perspectives, Vice Chair, is the need for staffing. There is a limit on the amount of funding you can request for operations, but we think this is an opportunity to put in for like a half-time or part-time position for say 3 years.
Yeah.
To help us with a lot of the initial maintenance work.
Yeah,
So we want to put that in there. We're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.3 to 1.5 million, but we're refining this. We also, our cost estimate, we also have engaged with Ken Wells. We did a minor agreement to really get his perspective early on what trail work would be necessary to support opening it, because we want to make sure that when we submit our request, we make it as comprehensive as possible.
Yeah.
And it covers all the things that we may need to do up there, which could include things like drainage improvements and some of those other what could be very expensive line item expenses. So Hector's been coordinating with Ken, and we entered into a small contract to tap his expertise to help us with developing this proposal. And just by his name and his expertise carries a lot of weight with the funding agency. So we think it's gonna be money well spent to have him kind of help us with putting together this formal proposal. But ultimately, we'll bring that back to the subcommittee for input. Just wanted to let you know that we are working on that, and then once we've got the funding in place, we'll start putting together the timeline for the trail work and the planning processes and all that. And in the interim, our park staff, time permitting, has been going up and doing some of the preliminary vegetation management to kind of there might be an opportunity to do some guided trail hikes and some of those things, because ultimately, we'd like to facilitate eyes on and get folks out there, but we got to make sure it's safe. And to do so, and, doing that on a limited basis to get folks, excited about what's gonna be, a great addition to our.
They already are.
Yeah. It's kind of we keep it when,
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly.
really for us, we don't have the funding set aside just to go up there and start doing all this work. We gotta get the funding request in and get that approved, and then we'll be off and running on the planning process.
No, David, how is Ken's name mentioned on the funding request? Is he co-author? Is he a reference? How do you?
Well, I think what he's agreed to do is write a letter
Oh, okay,
that would, we would add as a, we want a formal professional package, and we could add his kind of support for what it will cost to do some of that trail work. And they've been going up there doing some preliminary mapping, all of which is going to help us out with our request.
Will it be reimbursement method, do you think?
Well, I think, how they did it with Porterfield was they wrote the check.
All of it right up front.
Yeah, and it became it's an endowment basically.
Yeah, right.
Said has to be, the funding has to be used for the purposes that they approve. So that would be, I think that would be the goal. If they wanted to do it on a reimbursement basis, that's fine, just add paperwork and administrative processes.
That's a really long name. They call it the IPAOM, Initial Public Access and Operations and Maintenance Funding, which is, this is where Ken Wells comes in and he helps us. Like David mentioned, writing a letter stating some of the stuff that we would need help financially. Like, public access amenities, including gates, fencing, signs, ADA parking, ADA ramps. And stuff like that. So we're putting the request together, about 100% down here, but it's moving forward.
Good. May I? So it's a great addition to the city, of course, and I thank the Open Space District for collecting that 0.5% and putting it back into the communities. I'm familiar with the property. I've been on it a number of times. I did hear the tree work on there, thinning, there's a lot of dead trees up there. So I'm sure we're well versed with that now after what we've been through for the last couple of years. One thing I did not hear is Foothill Boulevard itself. In front of our new park. If you go there and look at it, only the east side of Foothill Boulevard has a curb and gutter. If you look at the pavement, it only extends about half width of what Foothill Boulevard may someday be. I'm looking at deep pockets. I know that now we're the owner of it in the county at this point, and I think we'd be hard pressed with development from the Angeli property to pay for Foothill Boulevard extensions. And right now, I mean, maybe they'd be happy to pay for it, who knows? But I also see it as an answer to one of the letters that was written in your package today from Miss Opatz, who lives on 2nd Street. If that essentially right now that Foothill Boulevard is a dead end, and there's 4 or 5 houses there. There's actually 5 if you count the one that fronts on both 2nd and Foothill. And if we can, there's enough area there. If we did a loop, you guys are probably looking at it. Do a loop, drive through, come back out with parking on the property. And I don't know if we could ever, foot the bill or get the county to foot the bill for Foothill Boulevard to be widened. Because who knows if the Angeli property will ever sell, right? And who knows if the Zanzi property will ever sell. And I think so. I think it would be prudent to ask those deep pockets that exist, and I did appraise the property for open space, and that was one of my concerns, was the Foothill Boulevard and what constraints the city would put on any future development there. But that, the developer of that property, if they were gonna put houses there, would have had to extend Foothill wide enough, you know, make it, do those improvements. So why isn't the new ownership of that property handling those expenses? The open space district has the money. Let's make it correct for today, for the users today, and for the city today. We've had drainage problems coming out of the canyon immediately to the north. We had quite a problem there 3 years ago. And we're gonna, you know, we need to look at that. So let's go where the deep pocket is.
David, whose property did you appraise? Was it Angelini's or was it,
Soda Springs,
Soda
Ladder
Springs,
Range,
okay.
for the open space district.
oh, so that was recent?
Yeah.
Well, that's should be a thought. Do you think it would hurt to put that on the?
We can, I mean, this is why we'll need some assistance with identifying, you know, what exactly.
Yeah.
Improvements are identified, because that's gonna drive the funding request, right?
It seems like it falls into all of that planning we were talking about when it comes to the possible parking, and I mean, planning is gonna be a huge amount of meetings and time and work on staff's part, but I mean, you're right, it needs to be done, but
Yeah.
it's gonna take some time.
Yeah, and I think the important point is the open space district, agricultural preservation. Their reason for purchasing that property was, number one, to give us a park. But number two, stopping any development. I mean, that's how this thing came about in some respect. And any development there would have paid for that development. So the open space district is stopping it. But we need that street developed. Would you disagree?
No, I mean, you know, we have to look closely at the open space district's funding requirements, and I think we can justify improvements on the frontage. Now, if we start to talk about expanding Foothill Drive, extending Foothill Drive, I'm not
Oh,
sure
no,
that there's the
I'm not
next.
suggesting extending Foothill through
Yeah.
the other properties. I'm just
Right.
saying in front of our new park.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, even putting it in front of Angeli's is, or adjacent property, this is.
Yeah,
probably-
I wouldn't go on to Zanzi's property either.
Right.
One nice thing about this specific property is that it's situated right in the middle with two parks.
Right.
So folks can park, you know, at City Park or Vintage Meadows Park and have the
Exactly.
ability to walk, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah, and we, last week, we met with, staff at the Sonoma County Transportation Authority, to talk about development of what's called the Active Transportation Plan. The Active Transportation Plan is being developed right now, where we put an article in the Cloverdale Connect and encourage the community to participate in the survey. And I certainly, Dave, if you haven't, I encourage you to take it. Part of that is to identify, you know, future bikeways, pedestrian movements, and where those are located. We specifically discussed the idea of putting in the improvements along this, between Foothill Drive and Second Street. And what this will do, is enable us to apply for grant funding to help with some of the future trail. You know, obviously, we want to try to do as much upfront, get as much upfront funded by the open space district. But we know, there's a limitation to that, obviously. And so looking at long-term, how do we also provide the connectivity to the community and support walking, support bicycling and to that. So just trying to provide all the connections we can to all the different funding sources to, support access to the park and our parks.
Again, I would just reiterate, there's an open space district. It's 0.25%, 0.5% sales tax. They have a big pool of money. They wanted to purchase the property. We can ask,
Right.
unabashedly to have that road, to have, you know, they know the process. If someone was gonna develop it, and essentially the park is, we're now developing it, that frontage needs to be developed to current standards.
And David, if nothing else, David brings up a good point about flooding mitigation. You know, maybe if nothing else, we mentioned the flooding on that hill on the Angelini property, and what it did to Fourth Street, and also coming off this new property. If nothing else, flood mitigation. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of the items here on the initial endowment from the county, erosion control on the creek. Flooding issues.
Maybe we can get something in there for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We want to put together a comprehensive request. We just haven't finalized it yet. We're still just working on the pieces and, you know, trying to really hone in on the costs that we're, you know, we want to make sure that it's affordable and realistic. And it just takes time to make sure you try to get it as best as you can.
I'm not suggesting anyone hurry.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to balance the time and the energy it takes, but to also get it right.
And then this is kind of like where the community engagement and public outings will take place there when we get those meetings going with the community, with the neighboring properties there and the homeowners nearby.
They'll say, no, we don't want it.
Yeah.
Parking. I would go talk to the people up at in Del Webb, knock on those doors on the end of that street.
We did that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all fine with it. Thank you.
Any other comments on that?
I'm good.
All righty, and number 2 in parks update, potential park enhancements.
Yeah, well, this is, Vice Chair, this is just a standing item, for the committee to talk about, you know, future park improvements. You know, we've had a number of, these in the recent future, I mean, in the recent past, that have been brought up at the subcommittee. I think the bag toss was one which was brought up here and we have since implemented. Security cameras, striping. So this is just really an opportunity to identify if there's other projects or enhancements or improvements in our existing park system. I know, Vice Chair, you mentioned to me, for example, that maybe looking at some additional security lighting at Clover might be something we take a look at.
Well, and I talked to a few folks and with the time change, it really shows its head right there, but walking down there, everybody gets home from work, it's dark this time of year. They were talking possibly, you know, the bridge from that parking lot, from the south parking lot. Even in the middle or at the end, just to show that bridge, nothing fancy, just a couple little lights, you know, right there. And then they were talking about when we walked, I personally walked down there the other night, I was walking my dog and there was 3 people using their cell phones to walk around down there. And I thought, that should be good. So around the pickleball court, I know we've got power down there with the scoreboard and all that. And then if they're looking at the scoreboard and then pickleball, I mean, that thing's taken off. There's people there 24/7 almost, you know, they're down there. So maybe some to light up, maybe a big light to light up a little bit of the playground and the pickleball courts. I mean, just light Ferber Park.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We did.
The cheapest way we can, but
Yeah, we did add those, and we've gotten some really nice positive feedback. We added all the security lights on the bedrooms and.
I'm telling you, when you walk down there, lights up the
lights
whole
up.
back stop.
There's motion detectors there.
They're perfect, man. If you have those around the
Good.
park,
So,
tell you, so that's one thing.
and I think the thing to do here is maybe get a hold of a local contractor.
Yeah.
And give us a favor just to go out there and check it out.
Yeah.
Just so we can get some ball number.
Make a lot of people happy and all that.
Well, no, there's some good contractors here in town, some electricians that would like to go out there and give us a free quote. Just to give us an idea of how much it would cost.
Well, I think we have to remember that the parks close at dusk, so, I mean, are we encouraging people to use, they're gonna use them either way.
Right.
You know, they're not gonna listen to that, but,
It's mostly the walkers.
Yeah.
You know, or joggers are still down there until about 7 or 8 o'clock, you know, so.
I know the basketball courts, we have plans for just switching over parks. We have plans to install some lights there, so we have a conduit for it in the future. I know there's other residents that brought up the mayor brought it to our attention, I think, the baseball field lights, stuff like that. So we're looking into it. See if we can get some additional funding for.
So as someone that lives right next to the football field. And the new lighting system it's good. I appreciate what the school district did there, but a lot of my neighbors don't like the lights at night, so I don't know if you're talking about lighting up a basketball court at night.
No, so
or
no,
just-
it has a photo cell, and you can put a timer on it, you can put a timer on. Kind of, you can decide the time to turn it
Not
on.
for playing basketball.
No,
at night in the park,
well-
not for pickleball, for playing.
No,
at
so
night.
some of these
Just
things
security
for
issues.
security purposes,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank
And I
you.
know the lights for some reason, the lights at the high school were on for a while at night.
Well, and that's the thing about Ferber down there, is you've got the creek, a lot of trees, and if you shrouded them obviously towards the streets, you're not gonna have them. Blasting any olive grape gables or anywhere around. I didn't see any real area where it would be intrusive on people.
Well, it could be one of the things like in the survey that we just saw,
Exactly.
Get a lot of joggers.
Yeah,
Get some lights down there for the jogging.
so,
So I think what I hear is interest in kind of more like. Not lighting the pickleball court, so that
Right.
you can play later in the evening.
security lighting.
Yeah, security lighting.
To light up, it would light up the pickleball court, not for a game, but it would also light up the playground.
I would also just say that I'm for less lights, but I mean, security lighting is fine to a point. We can go overboard real quick.
Mhm.
I haven't been to Ferber Park in the evening. I've been there to the pickleball courts, to the playground with my grandkids. Everything is great. Nighttime use, I'm remember, Gus brought it up. I don't. Joggers and walkers, I walk every night, I walk every morning, it's not an issue, but we all have cell phones. So and overall, in terms of light, I've been going out on the eastern Sierras in my retirement, hard to brag. There's no lights out there, it's perfect. So
That's good. Discussions, as I,
Yeah.
we had a few items that we addressed, the security lights at River Park, the cameras that we've done. The striping at the city park's gonna start going, this is just an opportunity for
yeah,
members to.
and I would say the less lights, not more.
Alrighty, let's move on to streets. City number 3, update on citywide street striping plan. I'll stare at Vanessa.
My turn.
You're up, big screen to speak.
Well, let's see, I know I can easily kind of bounce this back over to Derek. The city crews have been doing a great job with updating and adding thermoplastic striping. Yeah, I think that's moving along very nicely. We do have, it's sitting on my desk, but we do have a 90% plan submittal from W-Trans specific to striping the boulevard and Foothill and Treadway. Now, the boulevard gets a little bit more complicated because we've got some slurry seal recommendations here and there on the boulevard from our pavement management report. And so just kind of getting our heads around piecing that out, and additionally providing comments back to W-Trans on their 90% submittal. So those are still on my desk, but I think we're moving along pretty well with the striping. The caveat being that as we come into the rainy season, that's going to slow way down until the weather picks back up again, and we get some sunny days.
So Vanessa, on this slurry striping for the boulevard, what's the time frame for that? Are we talking a year out?
Well, potentially, yes. I think, the soonest we can do any kind of slurry job would potentially be next spring, assuming good weather. Summer is more ideal for that kind of work. But if we are going to move forward with slurrying segments of the boulevard, I would say that that's going to be a next summertime issue, and then striping would go in shortly thereafter.
Well, you know, those parking spots along, in front of Plank and all the way down, you can hardly see them anymore. And if we're talking another year, now all of a sudden we're gonna have nothing for people to line their cars up on. So
Yeah, and I think the parking tees over, I believe we talked about this at our last subcommittee meeting. I think those can go in and paint.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that to be thermoplastic. They don't see a lot of wheel traffic, a lot of constant wheel traffic, and so that could really go down anytime and be a pretty low effort task.
Yeah.
Is what I'm hearing, and then redo them again.
Yeah, we talked about,
Okay, all right.
parking striping with paint, it's just, it's raining, a timing and a staffing, I mean, we have a list so long, you can't even imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Chip away.
all in stride. That's all I know.
All right, number 4, Allen Avenue asphalt repair.
We're in the last stages working with FEMA on that, and we will hopefully by next time the subcommittee meets, we'll have possibly some action to report.
And what's FEMA, I mean, they're not pushing back on anything, are they?
No, it's just a long process.
Okay, First Street overlay.
We're still working on the scope packet to go out and for bid. I haven't finished it yet. We'll be working on it, and probably the soonest that could go out would be early next year for a spring or summer project.
Thanks for doing First Street over there. I noticed the asphalt there was just terrible. How did that occur compared to the other streets that were done in the same time period?
More
David,
traffic.
David, I think you were with the chamber when that was done.
Yeah.
But the city specifically did that to slow traffic. And we wanted that to be more or less like a pedestrian walkway.
Cobblestone.
Yeah.
You hear that as well. I was gonna get facetious when Richard was sitting next to me, Mr. Seaman, about our street conditions. It is a topic that I know is on our mind. I see it on the path in North Washington. I hope is on your radar like every other street in town. But good luck with it all.
Yeah.
Right, First Street Crocker Bridge pedestrian improvement project.
Well, the county continues to make incremental progress on the pedestrian crossing. It looks like they'll probably be wrapping that up here shortly for the year. They haven't already. Hector's
It's kind of hit and miss sometimes, like they were there this morning, loading up some forms, they had a couple truckloads of forms. And then they poured the concrete foundation on both sides. So that's kind of like where we're at.
The late opening of the summer bridge and Oski kind of delayed their start with the project because they at times they have to close both travel lanes and they want to make sure that there's emergency vehicle access. So with the removal of the summer bridge, it means they're gonna have to take this project into spring of next year. So it'll probably be late summer when the time this is all kind of said and done.
Are they gonna clean up a lot of that stuff coming down the river part? Because I noticed a lot of it was all the way down. Some of our unhoused folks decided that they were gonna build a house down there.
Yes,
So
we went last week, I think it was last week.
I saw that, yeah.
We went and cleared out, what they were doing is they were stealing building materials.
Yeah.
Brought them down into the creek.
I'm just wondering if that pile's gonna be there, because it'll be gone by the time the worker comes back.
The stuff that we haul out of there, we dispose of it.
Gotcha.
According to here back to the yard.
How far down the river was it, or was it not?
Green Bridge.
It's by the Green Bridge, it was under they figured that a good location to build a house would be under the bridge. There was a lot too.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Hector, while I'm thinking about it, if you could make sure to report kind of quantities of all the trash and stuff that you get out of the river, if you could report that to Bobby, that's important for our stormwater permit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Right, Let's move bypass 7. We already went over that, and we'll move into item number 8, underwater, Russian River Water Forum, Potter Valley relicensing.
Yeah, the next meeting of the forum is planned, is coming up. I don't have the date in front of me. Let's take a look real quick. The date. It is. Thursday, December 7th. There has been a initial draft decommissioning plan that was put forward by a coalition that includes really as the lead, the Sonoma Water along with the Mendocino Inland Water Power Company to take over the Potter Valley project as part of the PG&E walking away from relicensing the Potter Valley project. So we'll see if that moves forward. But likewise, the forum process is continuing. It's it's trying to seek a long-term solution for the whole Potter Valley project, and there's a pretty strong interest in Mendocino County to have those dams removed. So we just continue to track it. And again, there's tend to be, I think there's some rallying around the plan that Sonoma Water has come up with to take over control and management of the existing facilities. So as we know more about that, we'll report out, but not much more to report than that.
How's that gonna be funded?
That's kind of the $1 million question is, I would suspect that Sonoma Water is a water wholesaler, that they would seek adding a surcharge or something to their existing customers. Currently, the city of Cloverdale is not a customer. We're not a wholesale customer. So there may be some discussion as to whether we want to become a customer of Sonoma Water, and what that entails. I can't say that that's been offered to us or even discussed at this point, but that could be, just kind of reading the tea leaves, that could be something that could come up, especially if they incur, which they would incur significant costs from taking over that system, and would have to seek a mechanism to get, to pay for those costs. So I suspect they would ask their existing wholesalers that, to tag on a charge to their water, but for Cloverdale, I'm not sure, because we kind of sit in a way we're in an island.
With no water rights too.
Yeah, right.
Excuse me, did I hear you say there was a Mendocino contingent that was looking for dam removal?
There is.
And is it Van Arsdale and Pillsbury?
There's a significant effort in Mendocino County, groups, environmental groups, fishery groups, tribal groups that would like to see those dams removed.
Wonder what they'll do with Mendocino, Lake Mendocino. What, doesn't that water come predominantly from water diversion?
Well, it's the Potter Valley project is largely situated on the Eel River,
Right.
which is an interbasin transfer. A portion of that water is transferred to Lake Mendocino. So in between that is Potter Valley, and that's where the Mendocino Inland Water Power Company exists. They support a lot of the agricultural users. In terms of Mendocino County, I think that water would no longer get diverted, so it would all stay on the Eel and would be available for downstream users.
Yeah. So this Lake Mendocino would wither.
Would lose its supplemental supply of water it receives from the Potter Valley project. Absolutely.
Well, with Iron Gate, with the Klamath coming down, we'll see if they get speed, and we'll go here next.
Yeah, there is a trend. It's happening in Western United States, dam removal, and there is interest in this being the next one on the list.
It's interesting because the eel, the winter steelhead, or the summer steelhead run comes out of the Yellow Bully Wilderness, not necessarily, I don't know that it was ever behind Pillsbury, but.
Well, I can imagine if they took that down, what it would do to the downstream areas now. You bet. That would be a nightmare.
Yeah, well, actually, it's so far out. Pillsbury, it doesn't affect
You don't think?
Eagle River, no. I mean, it stops fish from getting out. The floodwise damage was done further downstream.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. 6 acres mutual water company pre-annexation.
All right, well, we're gearing up to bring the final annexation agreement forward to council. It's nearly in a form that's ready to go. There's just some final adjustments. It's gonna closely follow the pre-annexation agreement that was adopted or supported by council, and it just was some updates to reflect the current process that we've been.
Yeah, this could probably say South Cloverdale pre-annexation good work.
One more time, Ken?
Well, for 6 acres, we're gonna do the final annexation
Right.
agreement, and then for South Cloverdale, we're still working on the pre-annexation agreement. So this just says, never mind, it's.
It's, I mean,
And we know how we can improve the annexation of that water district from 6 acres, right?
Yes.
Is that, that South Cloverdale Water District is just gonna be a nightmare, I think, and, I don't wanna see the city having to bear any expense for that.
Right. We have echoed those comments very strongly in the most recent meeting, and we're trying to address how what's the roadmap for South Cloverdale? How does it move forward, given the state's desire for the city to absorb that? And we just want to make sure that if that is the case, that the state bears the brunt of the cost to or agrees to pay, be it grant funds or other sources of funds, all the costs associated with the water improvements that will be necessary.
And the county's got to step up a little bit too. I mean, it's their water district in essence, and it's been neglected for years, and now they just get to pass it off to the state building. I can get read about that all day long, so. Next.
Vice Chair, we just did a brief update on item 9.
All right, wastewater update.
Okay, so
Recycle water.
Recycle Water Planning Study Council had approved two grant applications, one to the United States Bureau of Reclamation and another to the State Water Resource Control Board for about $1 million in funding. And we did receive notice from USBR that they're funding the federal half of the cost. And we received an email from the state that we didn't get a formal letter, but it was kind of an email correspondence saying, we look forward to working with you on this project. So our expectation is that the project will be funded, the planning effort will be funded largely with federal and state funds. So we're just tracking and monitoring that. We know there tends to be a lot of work that goes into just getting the grant agreement in place because of the amount of funding. It requires time going back and forth and just ironing out the scope of work, what's covered, the timelines and the cost. We know we've identified West Yost. Council approved an agreement with West Yost to lead up that planning effort. At the time when we engaged in the initial work with West Yost, we didn't identify all the requirements of the grant, and so I think we'll be working with West Yost to make sure that we include the grant management requirements in their scope of work because they're fairly extensive and time intensive. So we'll be coordinating with Vanessa, city engineer, and her team that is assigned to this project to bring forth some amendments and hopefully we're gonna kickstart this project in 2024.
And how much is that? It's gonna be over $1 million, that study?
Yeah, it's right, it's right over, I don't have the exact number, I think it's like 1,048,000 or 1,024,000. And this is a very comprehensive process, when we say planning study, it's, you know, not only looking at the upgrades of the plant itself in terms of what it would require to bring the delivered tertiary water, but it's also looking at you know, user groups and where do we want to, you know, what are opportunities to actually store and deliver that water. And so, you know, I view a lot of what's happening is you know, looking at opportunities to offset potable is only become more critical, especially if we lose water from Potter Valley. And so I think there's a lot of interest in the feds and the state in funding these initiatives, and you know, looking to our agricultural community, I think on the east side of Cloverdale as a customer, it's really something, as an opportunity, to put it that way, for us. I think gonna speak to how we will dispose or, you know, sell, basically, because it'll become a commodity, the recycled water.
Well, once again, we're gonna have a study that's gonna sit on the shelf until the funding could catch up with it, and you know, I just hope it comes so that we could actually use it before.
Right. Well, this kind of, my hope is that if we navigate the Bureau of Reclamation's process and we meet all of their requirements as part of this feasibility study, we're checking the boxes that will set us up for success when it comes for applying for those larger capital projects. Because what we applied for is a planning grant. And you know, there are the construction grants available. And you know, I think that's going to be critically important to being able to actually deliver a project, is getting that large capital costs funded by the feds and the state. Because it's probably too big of a burden for our ratepayers.
Yeah.
$1 million just to study it.
Yeah, exactly.
70-80 million.
Right, but included in that is, you know, getting a lot of the environmental work done, which, you know, again, sets you up to be able to deliver a project. Yeah. That's kind of how I view it. Hopefully that aligns with their perspective. And we do all the things they ask us, you know, and we build that relationship with them, because we really haven't done a project with USBR before, and that I'm aware of. So I think, you know, it'll hopefully set the stage in a positive way for success.
All right, Derek, manholes.
For October 11th, consent calendar, item H1, you guys agreed, passed the agreement for mixes to the tune of $169,336.20. We're fully in contract with Mixes Services Incorporated, and we're just waiting on them to set a start date. Sweet. And airport, so we've replaced all the windsocks. We're currently working with the FAA on grant funding for the PAFA lights. That's still in process. We have regraded the approach road that was damaged in the storm events of January 2023. So we're hoping that will weather the storms of this year.
Where did you grade it from? The railroad tracks?
We graded, well, we graded from the bridge right in front, the bridge all the way up to the where you would say where the septic tank lids are at the hangars, if you know, where that. So that's been regraded, base rock brought in and all that. So we should be set for the winter.
Well, on the airport, David, I'd like to see you come back as an agenda item to discuss the finances of the airport.
Okay.
In the operation. I just want to make sure that we're still being competitive and somewhat aggressive on the gas I know there's, I wish I could give you the name, I can't seem to remember who I was talking to, but he has a friend who's a pilot that actually comes to Cloverdale to buy the gas because it's so much cheaper. So that tells me that we're not, I know when we buy it, for a certain dollar amount, we only take a small profit. And if the prices go up, I'm not sure we're adjusting accordingly.
I think
And
you're
the same
right.
with the hangar rates
Yeah.
as well, to make sure that we're being competitive. We haven't looked at this in a while, and it's always been a drain on the general fund at the end of the year. It was
Right.
for a significant amount of money, so.
So, right now, the chair, we have, airport as a standing item.
Okay,
Do you want us to move that to new business or keep it as a standing item, but as part of reporting out or discussing airport activities? Delve into.
I'd like to see us move it up, but only at staff's, with staff's timing in mind.
Okay,
You know, I'm not sure what Susie's doing, I'm not sure what your schedule looks like. If it's not next meeting, the following, but within the next 2 or 3 meetings, I'd like to see it as a discussion item.
as a new business item. Okay, we can do that because we're obviously canceling the November, December, so maybe you're looking at the January meeting, bring forward.
January, February, whenever,
Okay.
like I said.
Perfect.
I have one quick question on the airport, if I can. Just curious, I use the airport to access the river for fishing, maybe illegally, maybe not. I'm curious about on the south end of the runway where the erosion was in the creek. Was that repaired? Where the fence was falling down?
How long ago was this?
Was that the airport fence or was that the private, there's a privately owned fence?
So that's the airport. It goes right along the access road where the truck, you guys drive out and at the south end.
I'll have to get back to you on whether that was the repair.
I was just wondering with all the FEMA stuff, and then with the, it could erode into the runway, it'd be a long, you know, it's probably 30 feet away. Maybe, but there is erosion there.
Mhm.
I don't know that it was ever taken care of. I haven't been there in a year.
I'll go look at that.
Yeah, my sense is that fence was the, associated with the Gallo property to the south.
I think it was their fence.
Was that the creek?
I know that the airport has fencing around.
It doesn't.
Doesn't
I'm
it?
saying.
It does not.
Okay. Well, it's right there adjacent to your road.
Well, we should, if it's not ours, we should at least let Gallo know that their fence needs tending.
And be advised any, of course, any work in the creek. To Steelhead Creek.
Do you catch fish out of that creek?
It is. I've seen fish at Steelhead and Porterfield. I'll bring that up. Another week. Yeah.
You've seen it?
Oh, yeah, I got pictures of them, full size.
You have a net in him?
No, I don't molest them anymore. As a matter of fact, I'd like the open space district to fund no dogs in Porterfield Creek signage and move all the dogs over to Lida. So
We have some signage, it's a habitat sign along the creek. I said, probably should get more, but we do have some signage.
yeah.
What do dogs do that you don't want them on the field?
They go in the creek and they swim and they disturb the
It's supposed to be
fingerlings.
on leash though. but-
Well, it's supposed to
okay,
be, and
All right. Gotcha. Okay.
what happens are two different things.
Yeah.
You have some signage, keep the dog on the leash.
Yeah, it doesn't, people are openly, even if you talk to them.
Yeah.
So that was it on the airport, Dave, what I'm.
Okay, perfect.
All right, any future agenda? Anyone? All right, let's move to adjourn it at 3:51 on the 14th.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. David, we have